Hey, what is going on, everybody? Welcome to Upkick MMA episode number 184. I am Brendan. We're going to talk about One on Prime number 3, John Lineker versus Fabricio Andrade, Regian Eersel versus Sinsamut, Klinmee, Kade Ruotolo versus Uali Kurzhev, and we're going to talk about the rest of the main card. We're not going to do the prelims or the lead up on this one. We're going to talk about all of those here. Subscribe to the channel if you like MMA. Subscribe to the channel if you want to listen to some guy break down fights. If you like that stuff, so you know when the next video is coming out. Let's get started. Okay, this was really weird. So, I don't cover one FC that often, right? I do know John Lineker from being in the UFC, so I am familiar with him. I know that he's been fighting in one FC for quite some time now, probably close to 4 years. Maybe 5. This was for the title. This was for the Bantamweight World Championship. And it was ruled a no contest. For good reason, I might add. Whether he milked it or not is a matter of discussion. I am not on the side of that fence. I am in the camp that I think a nut shot so hard that it breaks your cup is a viable excuse for calling a fight off and taking your time to recover. So let's talk about a couple things here. First of all, John Lineker back to his old tricks as usual, not making weight, and he got stripped of the title. So he couldn't even win the belt or keep the belt even if he won this fight. So Fabricio was the only one who could keep the belt. This fight was pretty good, actually. So if those of you guys who are watching this don't watch ONE FC very often, they don't score it round by round, but that's how I kind of keep track. So the way I keep track, so what they do is they score the fight as a whole, which has its positives and negatives. Compared to the 10-9 must or the 10-point must scoring system, it allows for more nuance, right? It allows for a judge to look at the fight and say, hey, the first 3 rounds were real close, basically a tie as far as damage goes. So no one really won those, and the damage was equal, right? And then in the 4th round, one guy really blew the doors off the other one, and then in the 5th round, it was close again. So with the 10-point must scoring system, you could have it where the guy who did less overall damage could still win the fight because he could have won 3 of those other 4 rounds. But with the judging as a whole, judging the fight as a whole, you could say, oh, well, clearly the guy who did the most damage in this fight was the guy who won that 4th round. So that's the positives. The negatives are there is a lot of room for corruption to step in. I know there's plenty of corruption with the 10-point scoring system anyway. You look at boxing. If you want proof of that, just watch any premier, like any high-level boxing, and listen to the scorecards on some of these matches. It's horrible. So I know there's still corruption there, but this one allows for more of it because you don't necessarily need to turn a scorecard in after every round. So if you were paid to make a decision in one way or another, you can hide it. You can say, oh yeah, I thought he did more damage. I thought he won that fight as a whole. So there's that. So that's how they score it, right? They score the fight as a whole. But so when you hear, I'm just giving you a heads up so you don't come back at me and be like, oh, that's not a 10-9. There's no 10. I understand that. It's just how I keep track of what's going on. There were some really good leg kicks from Lineker early. The height difference is kind of crazy. Lineker was a much shorter fighter in here. The jab for Fabricio is pretty much the only thing that was landing for the first half of that first round. But then Andrade hurt him with a left hand, kept pressure on, and he was picking him apart. He was finding the mark, got his timing, was doing pretty much whatever he wanted and landing on Lineker. And it wasn't with a ton of power every time, but it did rock him at least once. And then Lineker dove under for a takedown. That first round, obviously Fabricio was a much more technical striker, but Lineker did near the end of that round land 3 left hooks in a row, right upstairs. So big looping left hooks. They're kind of like a check because Fabricio, as he would step in, Lineker would throw the left hook to counter. But because he's so short and the height disparity so much, you got to reach up when he's like swinging to get into it. So, they look like big looping left hooks when they're really, that's kind of necessity. And also he's a hook thrower anyway. Lineker doesn't throw a lot of straight punches. Andrade was ahead on damage overall after the first round, but I made a note here that he was getting touched with that left hand almost every time near the end of that round. So I had it, like traditional scoring-wise, I had it 10-9, but like I said, I had Andrade ahead on damage. Lineker was going... he went with the right hook to the body a few times in the second round, and then he hit the big 3-piece combo with big, again, hooks, and ends up getting the takedown. This rocked Andrade pretty bad. Andrade's biggest weapon was the jab, and he was landing it decently. His left straights were okay, but they didn't add up to the amount of damage that John was landing with those hooks in the second round. But John's right eye was swollen, and it was because of a glancing shot, right? So the punch slid across, right? Slid across the cheekbone, and it swelled up that right eye to where Lineker's right eye was almost closed. I wouldn't have been surprised if they stopped it, but they didn't. Andrade was digging knees to the body. He landed one good one in the first round, but he started digging them more in this third round here. Lineker going to the body and up top with those hard hooks, so he would start combos down low, and then he would start low, and sometimes he'd land 3 or 4 of those, and then he would finish coming up over the top, and if he landed, he might throw another one. Andrade kicked Lineker low, right? Actually, that first kick looked like it did land above the belt line, so it didn't land in the cup. And then the second time he goes in, he runs. It's not a flying knee, but he leans in with the knee and hits the cup so hard. Lineker drops down. The cup is broken. Lineker was dry heaving in a bucket at one point. I understand if you're dry heaving, nothing's coming out, but the bucket was there. Andrade had no remorse, by the way. Like when he was during that 5 minutes of recovery time, Fabricio is walking back and forth, and he's like shaking his head and like talking shit about Lineker, like he's okay. Hold on, we'll get to that in a second because this has Aljamain Sterling vibes on it. Only this is actually just as bad. This fight, and I wrote down, I was like, this fight shouldn't continue no matter how much people want it to, because there's no way John could be recovered when you get hit that hard. You spend 5 minutes on the ground, you're still in pain. There's no way you're going to be able to compete. There's no reason to continue fighting because it's not the same fight anymore. You're fighting a completely compromised fighter from an illegal shot. And also they ruled it an unintentional foul, which is why it's a no contest. I don't know about that. By the way, if you're looking for another specific fight, the timestamps are down below. I get that it's an unintentional foul, meaning that he wasn't specifically aiming for the nuts. But to just outright rule this a no contest just because you think it's an accident, I don't know, man. Dude, when you commit a foul that bad, it would. Oh, fuck, I don't know, man. It's, how do I put this? And Lineker missed weight anyway, so he cheated beforehand. It's not like this. This fight was all bad. So no, the action was decent. It was good. I mean, this whole card wasn't bad. I liked it. This main event kind of made me upset because I wanted to see how it ended, and then the laissez-faire way that everybody was about this fight not continuing. It was very odd that there was a little bit of discussion. I guess there was something missing, and maybe it was just because I wanted the fight to finish and I was waiting for them to like give me a tagline, give me a soundbite, give me something from this, like, and I just didn't get it. You know what I mean? Like, nobody said anything really funny or clever or, came out. It feels like a real big, like a big nothing. And that was it was kind of a downer way to end the night. After staying up for a while watching these fights, wasn't the most interesting thing at the end. Obviously, the fight was interesting, but that's not the thing that I'm going to remember from this fight. I'm going to remember a broken cup with a man on his knees, dry heaving. All right, let's move on here. Regian Eersel versus Sinsamut Klinmee. So these two was a lightweight Muay Thai world championship. Really good match, by the way. It was very close. So hard kicks from both guys to start it. Eersel was landed 2 overhand rights and a decent jab a couple times. Eersel landed a back leg kick and took Sinsamut off his balance just a little bit. Obviously, he didn't knock him off his feet. Klinmee landed 2 straight rights. It was a really close first round, but the biggest shots with more big damage came from Eersel, but it was just barely, right? So it's just like he's ahead on damage. Now, I had it 10-9. Again, that's how I keep track of the scoring system. But just barely, right? So then Eersel does have better hands. Both guys landing hard low kicks, but Klinmee landed more of them here in the second round. And then this second round was also really close, but I had Klinmee managing to avoid some of the bigger shots, and he landed more early. So the first half of that second round, I think that put him out in front, but it was really close. But I had him ahead on damage in this round, which in my eyes made it even as far as damage goes. Eersel not landing much, just kind of waiting in this third round. He was just waiting for most of the round, and the volume of Klinmee was enough to put him over the top, right? So I had him ahead on damage going into the fourth round. Then Eersel landed a left leg, Eersel's lead left leg was so red from all the kicks from Klinmee, but he managed to keep up with the kicks better in this fourth round. This fourth round than he did in the previous rounds. And it was another really close round, but Eersel landed enough, and because his shots, so he was always landing the better shots when it came to the punches. That's my big takeaway from this, is Eersel was always landing the bigger shots coming when it came to the punches. When it came to the kicks, when he threw them, they're about the same, but Klinmee was throwing a lot more and landing a lot more, and you saw the damage on that lead leg of Eersel. Now, Eersel landed a big right hand in this last round. So I had it dead even on damage, right? I had it even on damage going into the last round. And then Eersel landed a big right hand, another one. There was a firefight to the end of the round for the last freaking 15 seconds. It was great. Eersel got the better of it by far, and I had him winning this close fight. I felt like he did more damage. If you want to go traditional scoring, I had it 48-47. It was a good fight. It was close, but I for sure would give the overall damage to Eersel. Now, it was a split decision, meaning one of the judges did see it in the way of Sinsamut, but I would disagree. I know that Muay Thai is not my main passion. It's not my passion, right? So MMA is. I love watching MMA. I love scoring MMA, doing all that stuff. So I understand Muay Thai has its intricacies and it's slightly different, but I will tell you that punches and kicks don't change no matter what sport you're in. They are punches and they are kicks. Damage is damage. Now, if there's like some weird scoring system, but that's not the case here. That's not how that works. All right, let's move on. Let's talk about something kind of weird. Submission grappling. Kade, Ruotolo versus Uali, Kurzhev, not Kurzhev. There's no either. Kade Ruotolo getting the win here via submission here in the first round. Really good match, by the way. I am so glad. So here's the other part of this card. So this card obviously didn't just have MMA on it. This had submission grappling. It had kickboxing. It had Muay Thai. It had MMA fights. So there was a lot of variety. It was something unique, and that's not something you're going to get from your Bellators or your UFCs or your PFLs here in the United States. That's not something you're going to see. You're going to have to watch a different organization. You're going to have to watch a different channel. You're going to have to get a different streaming service. You're going to have to do something else and take an extra step just to watch a different kind of thing. Now, because of what I like, I still like full MMA cards. Throwing a couple of these fights in there once in a while. Bellator did this for a little bit, right? Remember they had Bellator kickboxing at the same time. They would go back and forth between the ring and the cage, and they would do a Bellator kickboxing, and then they would do MMA, and they would do a kickboxing, and they do MMA. They tried it for a little bit. I haven't seen them do that in a very long time. I think it's kind of gone. Didn't really work out. So I don't know how the U.S. is going to receive this ONE FC card. But I will tell you, if you want to sell grappling, these two really did a great job advertising it for you. It was all action. It was exciting. There was very little sit in one spot and play. Yes, when Kade was in good position, Uali was playing very defensive. That's understandable, but there was always something going on. Always. Kade was always looking, because that's how this went. Kade ends up getting the finish, like I said, submission in the first round. Uali missed weight, so he couldn't win the title anyway. So yet again, another guy. But Kade, so early on, oh, by the way, Kade's fro is ridiculous. It is something else. It's so much hair just floating around. Super cool. Kade actually rolled and got the back pretty early. Both hooks in, flattened him out, and he was riding the back really well. Uali was doing a good job holding on to one arm, but Kade would not stop driving, freeing his arm, trying to get a finish. Uali actually stands up with Kade on his back. Kade was playing backpack for a little bit. Uali got him down, slammed him down, broke the position, and managed to get back up standing and separate for a second. Kade rolled for a leg lock and got the tap. Domination by Kade. It was beautiful. This, like I said, all action, all the time. This is, if you want to sell submission, especially to people in the United States who have a short attention span, they're not used to this stuff. You hear complaints from even MMA fans saying, "Oh, I don't like that grappling crap. It's pretty gay." You could say whatever you want about what I just said, but I've heard that before. I've heard someone say to me, they don't like MMA because when they roll around on the ground, it looks real gay. And I'm not trying to save it for those idiots. What I'm saying is, like, you might have a couple people who are on the line who kind of veer that way, and when they see submission grappling, they're like, I'm good. This is how you do it. This is how you sell it. All right. Sitthichai, Sitsongpeenong versus Mohammed, Boutasaa. Good match. Good match here. So this was kickboxing. This was not Muay Thai, which I thought it was because obviously Sithichai is from Thailand. But then I looked at, obviously the bottom. It was for, featherweight kickboxing. I'm like, oh, okay. So that's why there was no elbows. Because that's what I was really wondering is why there was no... Oh, by the way, even in the Muay Thai, the Muay Thai World Championship, I think only one elbow was thrown the whole time. Really crazy. Sitthichai with a great high kick and some nasty low kicks to start this fight out. Both guys have a lot of power in the kicks, but Sitthichai really seemed to land with some more force. Mohammed was landing better punches upstairs, but the power on those kicks from Sithichai were carrying him in that first round for me. I thought it was very close. I thought it was close, but I gave the first round to Sithichai. I would... like I said, traditional scoring, I would go 10-9, but just barely, right? He's just ahead on that one. But good. It was good damage for him. Second round, Boutasaa throwing hard upstairs and landing push kicks, taking Sithichai off balance. Boutasaa the hooks from Boutasaa were wobbling Sithichai, and the damage is going one way. So for the first half of this second round, Mohammed was in his face, throwing hooks, landing hard, just emptying the fucking tank. And it looked like he was trying to get him out of there in that second round. But Sithichai didn't go down. He didn't get knocked down. He was wobbled a little bit. Like there were times in there where he got stung, right? But nothing like he was almost out. And then in the second half of this second round, he started to work his way back, right? Boutasaa was not looking fresh. With 1 minute left, he might have emptied the tank a little bit too much. And now Sithichai was pushing forward and landing really well. Sithichai actually controlled the pace of that second half of that second round. Now, if you want to go overall damage here, right? Obviously, that second round was damage went mainly to Boutasaa for that first half of that second round. But if you want to count the first and the second round, and you want to look at who's ahead on damage, it's still pretty close. Right? It's almost even. If not slightly, I would maybe lean towards Boutasaa. Just a little bit, right? Just a little, as far as him being ahead on damage. With traditional scoring, it'd be a 19-19, but if you want to talk about damage, maybe Boutasaa, for the way he started that second round, he did put a lot of damage out there, so it might have put him over the top. But just barely. Remember that. Sithichai knocked Mohammed off his feet with a low kick. And the pressure really started to wear on Boutasaa here in this last round. Boutasaa looking really tired, not keeping his guard up well, eager to clinch. He really wanted to clinch and stop the attack. He constantly overextended on his punches, and he would lunge in so he could grab the neck and kind of just rest for a second. He was not in great shape here at the end of the fight. Last round went to Sithichai. He was the aggressor, pushing the fight, landing better damage, and anything that put Boutasaa over the top, however meager or great it was in that second round, it was all erased by this last round. Now, it wasn't a blowout in this last round, like Mohammed didn't throw anything back, but I will tell you that the overall damage should have gone to Sithichai, and that is exactly how it went. So he ends up winning this one via unanimous decision. Good kickboxing. Yeah, and for those of you guys out there who get upset at MMA fans who just want to see striking, right? They're like, oh, I just want to see them stand there and bang. And you tell them, go watch kickboxing or go watch boxing. It's not the same. It's really not. I like MMA. I like watching MMA striking when two guys in MMA are striking. I like that better than watching kickboxing or boxing. I mean, it's a personal preference. Okay. But if I were on that side, which I'm not, I enjoy grappling, active grappling, right? Not sitting there laying and praying. I enjoy all aspects of MMA. I do. When done in the guise of, I'm trying to finish this fight, I'm trying to impose my will, I'm trying to execute my game plan of winning this fight against you, and I'm going to stop you from doing all those things to me, right? That's what I love about MMA. I love it. When you watch high-level grapplers in MMA, whether they be from wrestling or jiu-jitsu or judo, or I don't include this one, but I should start including it. Sambo, the Russian martial art. When you see these guys just impose their will, I've said it before. I don't think Nurmagomedov, Khabib, I don't think he's the greatest of all time. I think he's one of the greats as far as lightweight goes. And I've explained that in another video, and I don't want to get into it unless it comes up in another news cycle. I can go over my reasons for that again. I think he is one of the best fighters at 155 ever. I really do. He might be the best 155er ever. That's possible. But anyway, the point is, whether you like it or not, like him or not, because, I was never a big fan of his, and I wasn't a fan of how he got to the title. And as his career, I think it's overblown, right? It's overappreciated. Not that it wasn't good. It was great. It was fantastic. One of the best. But you can still overvalue someone's body of work, even if it's one of the best. Do you know what I mean? Like, I don't want this to come across as I think he's a bad fighter. Absolutely not. The point is, when you watch him fight, this is coming from someone, I'm mainly talking about me here, so I wasn't the biggest fan of him. When you watch him fight and watch him impose his will on his opponents with his bullshit striking, and he'd lead in and hop and do that crap, throw it. There's so many highlights of him doing that crap, and it's garbage. Doesn't matter. Just walks through it and just breaks people. Damian Maia, for as long as his career lasted in the UFC, just dominating people. I know he lost. I know. Seeing high-level stuff, it's so interesting to me. And I love it in MMA because they're really trying to finish the fight. Damian Maia was trying to get to a position to finish the fight. He wasn't trying to save time or win a round here and there. He was always trying to finish. When you watch kickboxing or watch Muay Thai, which I have, this isn't the first time I've watched these things, or you watch submission, you watch grappling, I like it. I do. But it always feels like something's missing. It always feels like something's missing. Maybe, I know I'm off on a side here, but we're at the end of the video. We can talk about the last fight. It only lasted a minute anyway, but we'll talk about that one in a second. I kind of want to just get on it. I just want to get this out of my head so I can repeat it later now that I've actually thought it out. It's like, oh, okay, all right. I got it. It's like watching. Actually, we can keep it. We can keep it in MMA. Let's keep it with this example so everybody understands. It's like watching Bellator and then someone calling them a world champion. Watching a champion in Bellator and they say, this is the world champion, when you know that guy lost to someone in the UFC. That guy couldn't have beat someone in the UFC, or he had a mediocre UFC career. Now, it has gotten better, and I have argued in the past that Bellator's top 5, top 2 in certain divisions can compete in the top 5, top 2 in the UFC's divisions. It's the depth that's the issue. Okay, so I get, all right. Not saying Bellator is horrible. It's not. But when you're watching Bellator, you're not watching the best fighters in the world most of the time. You know what I mean? It's like being a champion there, or even like these lower organizations. Like, you're a champion, but yes, you're a champion, but you're a professional in a sport that you're not challenging people at the highest level at. That's what this is like. When you watch kickboxing, or you watch Muay Thai, or you watch grappling, you're watching something, you're like, oh, that guy's the best at beating people. Like, he can beat other people up. Look, he's so good at it. It's like when or boxing. It's very evident in boxing for me because you're so limited in your tools. When you watch it, you're just like, oh, this guy, he's the heavyweight champion of the world. He could beat everybody. He's the baddest man on the... Is he, though? Because we know already. We know already boxing doesn't make you win in a fight more times than not. Jiu-jitsu, not always. Kickboxing, not always. Muay Thai, not always. the best in the world at these sports, when they come to MMA, they have success and they can win, and some of them can reach the highest levels and do become champions. So we know that some of these techniques, when performed at the highest level, can make you succeed regardless of fighting style or your opposition's fighting style. But when you're watching these guys, or when I'm watching these guys, in the back of my head, I'm just like, oh, he's winning, but really, we're not allowing him. And listen, I'm not saying that they're worse, right? I'm not saying that grappling is worse. I'm not saying Muay Thai is worse. And I'm not saying kickboxing or boxing is worse than MMA. This is a personal preference. I like watching MMA more than I like those things. Like I said, though, I can appreciate the execution and the minute detail that go into only using 2 of the possible hundreds of tools in your fighting toolbox that go into producing one of the best boxers of all time, right? You only have 2 tools. You're only allowed to throw them certain ways. You can't spin. You can't go over the top. You can't punch the leg. Not that that matters, but that is a technique that has been used to throw people off. Benson Henderson did it to Nate Diaz. Can't grapple. That's what I mean. It's when I watch it always feels like something's missing. I know that this is only a part of the picture. It's only a piece of the puzzle. It's missing so much more. And I think that's why I like watching MMA, because anything could happen in there. You could all of it is available to you at all times. So when you're watching striking in MMA, you're watching the most effective striking for fighting. Because if it's not the most effective striking for fighting, it's not going to work long term. Because if you're throwing wild looping punches up top and you get taken down all the time, well, that's not working for you, is it? You throw a kick and it gets caught and you go down to the ground, you can't defend yourself. That's not the most effective striking technique, is it? You got to add more to your game. Or you have to change up the way you're striking so you're not exposing yourself like that. That's what I mean. That's a really quick aside. Let's go over this. Let's go over this last fight. I understand. Thank you guys. If you made it this far, thank you for sticking with me. I know that was a little bit of a rant. I tend to do that on these. Something hits me in the moment, and I feel like I want to talk about it. All right. Kim Jae-woong. Or Woong. I did not hear him say the last name. Sorry. Not the surname. The given name. His surname is Kim. And that's what I'm going to call him. So if I pronounce Jae-woong wrong, I apologize. Versus Shamil Gasanov. This was really good. So this is a featherweight fight. This was MMA. Shamil making his one debut against a second-ranked guy. Okay, so him coming in here, and I understand for those of you guys who are not viewers of ONE FC, just like me, right? I'm not watching every week. I'm not learning the ins and outs and all the different positioning and rankings. I'm not always doing it, right? I've got one organization that I do that for. 2 organizations that I mostly do it for. I don't know if I can add another one on my plate right now. I still have a full-time job in which I'm working 12 hours a day with that anyway. Kim with hard low kicks to start, and they were trading kicks, going back and forth. Seemed to be the theme of the night. Every single one of these fights. I understand that 2 of them, one of them was kickboxing, one of them was Muay Thai. But of the 4 matches that allowed striking in this main card, all of them started with guys trading low kicks. I mean, I get it. They all did it for different reasons, but I get it. Shamil got a takedown and got the back and locked up the rear naked choke. He got the finish in the first round. Not much. I'm sorry I went on that rant a couple seconds ago, but like I said, I didn't have much to. There was not much to say on this one. Shamil looks strong. He looks strong. He got a body lock, ends up taking the getting the back and dropping him down. So he wasn't really a high altitude takedown, but he did get the lift and the dump. Really good move by Shamil. I think it's hard to tell, right? I'm not as familiar. This is where my inexperience with 1FC is going to hurt me a little bit here. I am not as familiar with the skill level of Kim. Based off of his highlights and what I know about 1FC in general, it looks like he's a talented fighter, and the fact that Shamil made him look like he didn't belong in there, god dang, man. Shamil's pretty good. All right, that is it. Thank you guys. If you made it this far in the video, what are you doing? Just subscribe to the channel, like the video. You'll know when the next video is coming out. I promise you'll like the next stuff. I put out 2 or 3 videos every single week, covering the UFC, Bellator, MMA, 1FC, PFL, Cage Warriors. I'm covering a lot of stuff now. I'm breaking fights down round by round, giving my scorecards, my opinions, controversial decisions, going over those kinds of things. So thank you guys so much if you made it this far. Like, I really appreciate you. It means a lot to me. If you're looking for the UFC, that card is coming up. I will be watching that here in a second. So my breakdowns for that will be out next, the main card and the prelims. So with all that, please enjoy your week. Enjoy the last little bit. Like I say it every week, the last little bit right here before winter for the people in the Midwest. Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Have an amazing week.